All right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome once again to the Scientific Origins channel. My name's Austin Sims, and these are my guests, Mike, Scott, and Jeremy. And today we're going to be talking about whale evolution, and then we're gonna chat for an hour or two about the different creatures and the different lines of evidence, and then we're gonna open it up to an open panel, and any evolution objectors can feel free to come on by and make their best arguments against what we share today. So before that, let's all take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Austin Sims. This is my channel. I'm a former young earth creationist, former theist who is now an atheist evolutionary biologist. And so today we're going to talk about one of the best lines of evidence for evolution, for sure. The whale, the Artiodactyla data set, as I like to call it. And go ahead and introduce yourselves, Mike, Scott, and Jeremy.
Okay, I'm Mike, Answers in Atheism, Speed of Sound. I like that handle. And I am a boomer high school dropout who studies molecular biology. So
he's so humble. He won't call himself a molecular biologist and a microbiologist. It's like, why, Mike? You know you are one. Well, I guess you said you were waiting until you publish something, right? That's fair.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm waiting till I actually know something. I don't know. It takes a long time to know something in this field. Trust me.
That's fair.
Okay.
Well, I'm Jeremy. I'm a first-year biology student. I'm working on being a plant biologist and botanist. I just started though, so got to take a little pity on me.
Oh, come on. You're well ahead of your other biology students because you've spent so much time refuting all the bullcrap young earth creationists say, which ends up inadvertently teaching you real biology.
Absolutely. I will say that I've got a deep thought in evolution because of the things that young earth creationists have said that I've had to look up because it's just so ridiculous that I want to make sure I can tell them the right information. And just a constant flow and like it's so crazy the things that they don't like. I love dinosaurs, so that's where I like to always go, and that's why these whales are going to be cool to like learn about. But
dinosaurs are a great one. Dinosaur to bird, yeah, it's a really
that's
good
the
one.
biggest one they always want to bring up. I mean, aside from soft tissue, and we all know where that goes, but like they can't ever understand that birds and theropods, share so many unique characteristics that if for you to not say that they are a theropod is just you being completely dishonest.
Yeah, it's perverse,
Like,
right?
yeah, it's shocking. All the comparisons that comparative anatomy can use to, show what they are. It's just amazing. Oh no, they were created that way and da da. It's just lunacy.
Well, I'm Scott, and I work with Mike on Answers in Atheism. And I'm like Sam Cooke. I don't know much about biology, but I do like to listen to people talk about it. And occasionally, I will make a snarky answer out of nowhere or snarky comment out of nowhere. That's my role here. Is the fool, the clown.
You're also our resident theology expert, which I think is an important role because not only is evolution denial, especially like young earth creationist evolution denial, bad science, it is also just bad theology.
Well, I don't consider myself an expert, but I have studied it before and such. So, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I haven't been able to stump you with a theology question yet, so you're more of an expert than me. I'll give you that much.
Well, if you read enough theology, you know that you can just wing it.
that is kind of, yeah, that's my opinion. All right, so with that, I think we can get into the actual meat and potatoes, the main topic of the video today, because whale evolution is important because it addresses a lot of the creationists, the evolution deniers' biggest objections. It shows a really major transition. It shows a land species going to fully aquatic, and it shows macroevolution, and it shows all these big genetic changes that are accompanying it, shows mutations and selection building all these big speciations in between the fully land and fully aquatic versions of these animals. And that really addresses a lot of the creationists' objections to evolution. And so another really great thing about it is it's a really good example of how you can really easily take evolution through the scientific method. So the scientific method is a cycle of like asking questions, proposing hypotheses, doing experiments and making observations, describing laws, and building theories. So we start with this question, are whales mammals, right? And this really simple question that I've asked creationists a lot really just like stun locks their brain, because you can kind of see already, if you're a person who's capable of critical thinking, of really looking at it honestly, how just the existence of marine mammals starts to bring evolution into focus. Because how the heck is a mammal living in the water? A mammal has lungs. It has to breathe air. So how does that happen? And so if evolution is true, we make a hypothesis to explain why whales are mammals, because we can observe, in fact, that whales are mammals. Mike, you're beating me to the punch, because that's the next slide.
Before we go on to the next slide, though, I think it's important to also realize what a freaking awesome thing it is to be a kid. Maybe I was a teenager. I don't know when I first saw this, but to watch a documentary and see them pan across the Sahara Desert and find practically intact whale fossils in the Sahara Desert. And you go, man, what the heck? How did that mammal, even though it's a mammal, how did that whale get into the middle of the Sahara Desert? And the story behind all that is just, it's just incredible. It's the one thing about studying science and evolution is just what nature did.
Yeah, for sure.
So many million years ago.
You don't even have to get into the immensity of time, just the immensity of the whale.
I was going to say that.
Something so small, a
so
small
big.
land dweller went to this huge freaking creature. Like, these are some beautiful
to be the biggest
humpbacks
animal
we have
ever.
here in this picture. Yeah.
The biggest animal ever. They became the blue whales there's ever been an animal bigger than them.
Yeah.
And they started from little tiny size, like wolf-sized dog.
Like Kent Hovind likes to do his, can you get a cow the size of Texas? Can you get a cow the size of the whole U.S.? No, but you can get an animal that is the size of the biggest animal ever. So evolution can do all that and more.
And what a dumb thing to say. That's another amazing thing. Is all the dumb things that have come out of Kent Hovind's mouth.
Yeah, for sure.
It's easy to be amazed in this world.
That is even bigger than a whale, for sure. And I've seen him debate this subject, and probably just the things he says on whales alone are bigger than a whale.
You know who Kent Hovind considers to be whales? His audience. Because he just takes that from them. They're their whale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're whales named Mark. Anyways, so this slide is important before we move on, because this is just a great summation of all the evidence. If you want to screen cap this and use this in your debates, this would be a great one to screen cap, because it just lists the lines of evidence. First, there's the bones, the two most important being the involucrum and astragalus, which we've mentioned there at the top. We've got the mammalian traits, the embryological evidence. Then the pentadactyl forelimbs, those are also technically qualify as bone evidence, as do the vestigial pelvitus and the hind limbs. We've got teeth, the nasal cavity migration, and the genetic evidence. And we're going to break all that down as we move through this presentation. So the next slide is getting into all the different species and creatures, like Mike was showing us. And Mike, do you want to walk us through this one? You seemed excited to get to it.
No, I was showing a different one from one of Rebecca's papers. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
no. You go ahead and go through this. You probably know this better than I do.
Well, all I really have noted on this is just that it's a simplified diagram. Okay, is that there's actually way more species than what's pictured here, and I have a list of those, as many of those as I could fit into a single slide here. There's around 200 whale transitional species. So like one of my favorite videos of all time is by King Crocoduck, and it's called "No Transitional Fossils" with a question mark, and then the whole video is just pictures of transitional fossils.
That's
If
the
he
one
had
that,
wanted to, he could have just done whales, and this is what this slide represents.
Dapper, I think he plays that video all the time. Like,
Yeah, it's a great video.
Uh-huh.
But
You know,
and it's also, again, it's just demonstrating that this is just a simplified diagram. This is
Yeah.
just taking like the kind of quintessential phenotype of these groups of species, these basilosaurids, these derudinids, these ambulocetids, right? Like these all really more represent clusters of species, which is exactly what evolution is, right? That's kind of what we're describing here. But this is just a convenient chart that shows the ages of the fossils and a basic representation of the phenotype and how it creates the conversion from an ancient species that was very much like or Indo-Hyas itself became the modern massive whale, the tiny little Indo-Hyas to the giant modern whale. We're going to get into it more now. One more important point I want to make about this slide before we move on. If you are an evolution doubter, you can go on your favorite search engine and search up how does blank support evolution and put any species name from this list, and your AI, your search engine will spit out a comprehensive answer for you about how it does. And the answer is most likely to be something about how it supports the transition of changes in the ear, it supports the transition of changes in the tail, in the forelimbs, in the hind limbs, and the pelvis. That's going to be the answer for most of these. All right, this is a very fascinating phenomenon. So we are taking evolution through the scientific method as it pertains to whales, right? We ask first, are whales mammals? And then we are asking all these other questions about if whales evolved from land mammals, what is the data going to look like? And one of the things we would expect is migration in the nasal cavity. So we found that in a lot of different ways. We found it in fossil data and we found it in embryological data. So when we dug up all these whale fossils, the older the fossil is, as this picture demonstrates, we've got them lined up by age. The older the fossil that it is, the closer to the front of the face the nasal cavity aperture is. And the younger the fossil is, you see the youngest one on the right there with the purple colored circle, the closer to the top of the head the nasal cavity aperture is. So this nasal cavity opening migrated throughout evolutionary history, and we have that recapitulated, in a sense, in the embryological development of dolphins, orcas, and whales, as shown by this picture. So it's cross-verification through independent lines of evidence. And that is basically the theme with whale evolution, is all these different lines of evidence fitting each other and supporting evolution. Because when we ask what the data should look like, this is exactly what it should look like. It should look like multiple independent lines all fitting each other and fitting evolution.
That's what makes science, the evolutionary science, to me so awesome, is that you can take multiple fields and it can all support one thing, or they can independently support their own.
100%. Like geochronologists use their theories to find fossil fuels without knowing jack about the dinosaurs that had to decay to become those fossil fuels, right? So it just enriches your understanding of the universe, of life around you. It lets you know what you are. Pretty cool thing.
Something else kind of helpful is showing a whale skeleton, because the whale skeleton looks more like those fossils than the whale because of the big jowls that they get or whatever.
Well, we're gonna get to that. I have a whole section here where we're just looking at the actual skeletons themselves.
Okay.
Endohyus and Pakicetus, Ambulocetus. My favorite
I
ones.
feel like I need to yodel because
That's
Yeah, and I don't think creationists really have any good answers to it. It's mostly just nuh-uh. And that was pretty much all of Rebecca's latest video.
It's a cartoon. So you don't have every step in between. That's what they say. Is that, they forget that fossilization is super rare, and finding a fossilized animal is even more rare. You should just have from A, B, Z, D all the way through the F. Like, we want to see every step, or it's not real.
Yeah, it's basically just an appeal to incredulity.
Yeah, they don't understand genetic drift or anything.
Yeah, I continue to be convinced that without appeals to incredulity, they wouldn't have any arguments. It pretty much all boils down to an appeal to incredulity, and it's hard to fix somebody's personal incredulity. You kind of just have to remind them that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to them, and it's what is true about reality is true whether or not they accept it.
Yep.
But continuing on with whales, we've got some more evidence here. So the main two modern groups of whales, right, are mysticetes and odontocetes. And the mysticetes are filter feeders. They feed using baleen plates. And the odontocetes are named odontocetes. You might not know this. Dont means bone, basically. Yeah, right. Yeah. Odontocetes, basically that means the bone, the outside bone whales, because your teeth are outside bones, and odontocetes have their outside bones. They have teeth, and they eat, I think mostly they're predators, actually, as opposed to, well, technically they both are eating animals, because krill are animals too.
Yeah. I just learned about that, the baleen part of those baleen whales. That is the coolest adaptation. Like, that it's basically like hair.
Yeah, that's exactly what this slide is going over, and it's also showing how even though they don't need teeth anymore, they have vestigial teeth that they grow in fetal development, and then they grow the baleen plates later, and they've never needed the teeth for feeding, but they're vestigial. And it shows the toothed ancestry of all whales, that even the baleen whales evolved from a toothed ancestor.
That's awesome.
What's interesting is you'll meet a lot of creationists who accept this. They accept it, and then they just say, okay, well, yeah, but there's no change in kind.
Isn't there one in the Ark? Isn't there a Pakicetus or something that's at the Ark exhibit or the Ark encounter?
Yeah.
Like, how do they explain that away? Do they
just say
like animal?
Yeah, they just say it's no change in kind. You still can't get change in kind like an ape changing to humankind. So it doesn't prove, but really the obvious response when they say that is, well, if this isn't change in kind, then whatever you qualified change in kind as isn't necessary for evolution. But
I just find it really funny that they have a Pakicetus there.
Yeah. This is just some other good embryological evidence of the toothed common ancestry of all whales, and these are obviously vestigial because the mysticetes do not need these to eat. Period. They filter feed with the baleen plates, which, like Jeremy said, are hairs. Actually, they're not teeth at all. Here is another great. So atavisms and vestigials are a huge part of the whale and orca and dolphin evolution data set. Like every one of those species, whales, orcas, dolphins, they all are capable of having atavistic hind limbs. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing a beautiful picture of a dolphin with atavistic hind limbs with them conveniently labeled even. So you've got the forelimb flippers labeled, and you got the hind limb flippers, and you can see the hind limb flippers are a little tiny and attenuated because they're vestigial. They're remnants of a broken TBX4 gene. The exact gene that builds these hind limbs still exists in dolphins, whales, and orca species, and it just has severe deletions and mutations and breakages. And that's because selection pressures, as the environment of the organisms changed, these hind limbs became more and more useless. It became better to have no hind limbs there and have a streamlined body. And that's another one of the transitions that Rebecca talked about that she claims can't happen. But we're seeing the evidence of it happening right here. All right. So I think she talked about this a lot too. But this is something creationists talk a lot about in general. These are the vestigial pelvis bones of various whale species. I think the ones we have here are a sperm whale and a killer whale, a couple of different whale species. So in most whale species, these have attenuated to very small bones that somewhat help in mating. But the whole reason they exist in the first place is because the ancestors used them for walking on land. They have the telltale, the pubis, the ilium, and the ischium. These are the features that define a pelvic girdle, except here they're just unfused, and they're being used by
And
the
they're unfused
reproductive.
because they're super vestigial, right?
Yeah, they don't
They're
need
not
them for
connected. Because I
walking on
saw,
land anymore. Yeah,
yeah, because I learned earlier about the hip when it basically became unsocketed. That there's a group somewhere in the middle that also had problems hearing, but
yeah.
that it showed when their hips actually got unsocketed, and their little flippers start like being not as
Yeah,
necessary. And
so that would be around the basilosaurids and the derudonids, the point at which they're so small they no longer even attach to the spine.
yeah, they
At
didn't
which point
they
they'd just be useless appendages hanging off the
yeah.
backside. You can't use them for scratching or digging or anything.
Yep, that's what they're saying. And then they talked about also that there's also a place that you can see, like you would guess, where they were still kind of in the socket, but not quite. So they could still get up on land a little bit and flip them around a little, but they couldn't really do anything, kind of like the way an alligator's back legs go and work, where they just could kind of get up there and move them around a little, but didn't support the body weight.
Yeah,
Like, and
there's a whole range of on land versus aquatic movement that the transitional species are capable of, and we'll get more into that as we look at the actual species,
okay,
the suite of fossils, a little bit later. This is continuing with the hind limbs, the bones. We're going specifically over what's called the astragalus, and we're looking at the fusion of the vestigial bones. So as you can see in the top image there, you've got the basilosaurid hind limb, and you can see that still has the humerus, the fibia, the tibia, the tarsals, metatarsals, and the distal phalanges and everything. And on
so
the
it looks
bottom
like
one, you can see that the ball and socket joint have fused together, and it looks almost exactly like if you took the top picture and cut the bones in half, and then the flipper, the forelimb flipper, still has that same layout. Oh, and the astragalus. The astragalus is it's a bone that is found in the ankles of artiodactyls. And so it's never been found outside of the artiodactyls group. So it's another reason we can be really certain that cetaceans are just a subset of artiodactyls, that whales, orcas, and dolphins evolved from land artiodactyls. Okay, this is going over the genes, right? We're talking, so this is explaining why the change occurred. So you had these organisms that were adapting to a fully aquatic lifestyle, going from being fully on land to being fully in water. Well, they were living on land like the modern populations of organisms that still are. There's a strong selection pressure for any deletions or breakages or changes that cause the hind limbs to be expressed differently, for those to be removed from the population. As they're going into water, these mutations and breakages that remove or attenuate the hind limbs are actually an advantage. It's something selection starts selecting for. So it swiftly proliferates through
The population.
antecedent generations, the descendants of these population, these
'Cause as it gets
individuals
selected
where
for,
they
it's
have these
more
mutations, right? Yeah, because they're more streamlined.
advantageous.
They can make it around in the water faster and using less energy, and they can collect food more easily and find more mates because they can go a further distance. It's a selective advantage. So you can see how something with hind limbs goes from having those hind limbs to not having hind limbs through selection pressures and mutation and compounding generations of selection filtering out those mutations. And you've got it all conveniently laid out here in a diagram for you. It's showing the phenotypic difference, the hind limbs of the common artiodactyl, and then the hippopotamus, who the whale is most genetically similar to, and then it's showing the whale itself, what its phenotype looks like, and all the differences in the genotype, the deletions and breakages and many missing lines of genetic information that produce a hind limb. So it's a really good argument against intelligent design, right? Because why would an intelligent creator create an organism with no hind limbs by putting in a broken gene for building hind limbs? Why put that information in there instead of just nothing about hind limbs at all, right?
Or to just leave the leftovers just their bones for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, why would if you're an intelligent designer, like, did you have a oops? Or like,
Yeah.
I mean, why just leave those? Like, and you know, that goes for any species, snakes, whatever. Why would you just leave those hip bones?
100%.
Like, whoops, you know, I guess I
You see,
messed
Jeremy?
up on that one.
According to Cornelius Hunter, you just exposed the fact that evolution is theology, but
Yep.
you're asking why would God do that?
Oh yeah.
Right.
So
That's true.
apparently you have a PhD in theology now.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, for sure. I have a PhD in epic battle and a certification in Hoven slaying. So that's the only PhD I have.
What is the source of that illustration there?
This
Yeah.
graphic, I made it myself.
Oh, yeah. The one before? Really?
This one here, yeah, I made this.
What'd you make it out of? Where'd you get the sequence?
This was the is the NCBI the same? Is that the one we used? Because I used the same one we used when you were showing me live comparisons.
Okay, you made this whole thing? Damn.
I did enlist the help of an AI, but I told it to use that data set.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's a nice picture. I like it.
Yeah, there are some issues with it. It's not perfect. The phenotype expression on the artiodactyl is a little off, but nothing severe. Like the kneecap is a little weird, but nothing major. Nothing that detracts from the overwhelming point of the graphic.
TBX4 is used in all mammals and I believe vertebrate or tetrapods for the hind limb. TBX5 is the forelimbs, and TBX4 is the I think it's a Hox gene that's used in anyway.
Yeah, 100%. So this is my source on this one, Mike, is John Peters. He's an entomologist and evolutionary biologist who has a phenomenal YouTube channel, which somehow has even less subscriptions than mine does. I'm not sure why. He's great, but he's an expert on evolution and captured viral DNA. And he provided a lot of these images. This image is another image that is expressing the genetic evidence. So what you're seeing here is a gene sequence being compared, and the number of differences being stacked up here. And what happens when you do that is taxonomic phylogenies get recapitulated by genomic similarity. So as you can see, what the chart is showing, there's as few differences between a species of whale and another species of whale as there is between a species of whale and a hippo. We've got 3 differences between the sperm whale and the R whale. I forget what that one is. And we've got 4 differences between hippo and sperm whale. So there's very few genetic differences between a hippo and a whale comparatively. The hippo is the organism that's most similar to what the whale, orca, and dolphin group that isn't in the whale, orca, and dolphin group. And it's in the artiodactyl group, which is why we think the whales, the cetaceans, nest inside the artiodactyl, the set artiodactyl data set. And people will just, they'll give you a blank stare when you say set artiodactyl data set. So it's better to just say whales, orcas, and dolphins so people can follow along. But this is really what we're talking about when we say the set artiodactyl data set. We're talking about all those species. We're talking about the genetics. We're talking about the embryological development, the comparative anatomy, the biogeographical species distributions. It all comes together in such a beautiful way.
So
and this is go ahead.
John M. Peters, he's a developmental biologist, written some papers on casein protein families, I think, if that's the same one. But you found a YouTube channel with him. Wow.
I don't know why it never took off. Probably because he didn't do a lot of content. He mostly went over the major, his philosophy is captured viral DNA and whale evolution overwhelmingly destroy the strongest objections evolution deniers have to evolution. So I think he just covered those and then was just like, all right, I'm done here. And then just went away. But he does still do a lot of debunking on Facebook and other social media. But he has a YouTube channel, and it has a bunch of these graphics that I'm pulling are from him.
Okay. See if I can find that.
Hey, I wanted to mention Petite Flower says, to paraphrase Clint's Reptiles, an orca has never killed a human, and that is only because they don't want to. And my extension of that, my yes and to that is they just haven't known us long enough. When they get to know us, they'll start doing it.
Yeah, give them a chance.
Yeah, I saw that too, actually, that the only ones that have ever attacked anyone is when they're in amusement parks or whatever, like SeaWorld. That's the only time an orca's killed a human. I also saw that they live to be 70 when they're in the wild, and in captivity they only live to 25, which seems really sad.
That makes sense to me that they have a pretty decent longevity because they have a long gestational period too. Like they can take a whole year to feed their babies, and they're just so big. Their metabolic processes are really slow.
Yeah,
I think a humpback whale, its heart beats like once per minute, like just because it's so massive.
Wow.
But this is just the sequence. We're going to go over the sequence, and easily every one of these could be its own video. But we're just going to go over the sequence real quick here and talk about each one a little bit. So Indohyus, this is the oldest one, and this is the one we think is the common ancestor of the set artiodactyls, the modern ones. Or something very, very like it, but there's a good chance that Indohyus itself is the common ancestor. And these things are found in Pakistan, and they're small. As you can see, this is a tiny guy. Going from this to a massive whale is a big change. And you can see the astragalus in the back limb, the part of the back limb that's available. You can see the one bones, two bones, many bones formation in the forelimb, and you can see the rest of the mammal skeleton starting to form a more aquatic shape. And in Pakicetus, I think the aquatic shape gets even more undeniable. Look how streamlined and S-shaped the skull to the back tail is. Yeah, John Peters. Yeah, and again, we've got the telltale astragalus bone. We've got the pentadactyl limb formation, the radius, the humerus and ulna, or sorry, the humerus, the radius, and the ulna, the carpals, metacarpals, proximal, intermediate, and distal phalanges in the forelimb, and we've got the humerus, the tibula, fibula, and the hind limb, and the tarsals, metatarsals, and the phalanges in the hind limb. And as we go through this suite of organisms, the hind limbs are going to get tinier and tinier as the fossil species get younger and younger, and the body's generally going to get more and more streamlined and aquatic, which you can start to see even in just the next step with Ambulocetus. And I like how they have it posed here. The way they have it posed makes the aquatic, the aquadynamic shape of it pretty obvious.
He's kind of beavery looking.
Yeah, it sure is, isn't it?
Or like an otter.
And beavers and otters, ironically, are living in the exact, well, it's not ironic, actually. It's natural selection at work again. They are doing the exact niche that this guy would have occupied.
That's true.
As is a polar bear.
As is a polar bear?
Yeah.
Because he would be a land predator also, huh?
Polar bears do most of their predation in the water, actually. They're technically marine mammals.
Are they really?
Yep. They're the last one in the group alongside. So we're going to cover the marine mammals in a little bit. We'll get to them. The other ones.
Okay.
So this is Myocetus. Myocetus is an important species because one of these was found giving birth. We found a fossil of the Myocetus giving birth, and that shows us that they still gave birth on land.
Because it was head first, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I learned earlier too. Was because it was head first that showed that they maybe these were the ones they were talking about where their hips could barely hold them. Because
Probably.
once they got on land, they had to go up to have their babies and stuff. So
Yeah.
that might have been the ones they were talking about.
It's a bunch of okay. Wow. Robin says, yes, he was kidnapped as a calf and they murdered his mother. He was originally kept in a very small tank and abused. Oh, she's talking about an orca. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about the details of that incident, Robin, but I trust what you're saying. We can't even begin to understand the extent orcas of cognitive and emotional abilities because they're so different from us, but they clearly have social structures and advanced intelligence. 100%. So one thing that orca pods have is they have pod politics. If you piss off the matriarch in an orca pod, you're probably going to get exiled, and that's not good for you because your survival depends a lot on having a good relationship with your orca pod.
Yeah, they said that's why one of the reasons that they do so bad in captivity is because they're way too intelligent
see it.
for where they are. They can't stay stimulated enough. And it causes them depression and things. And usually they're kept like one or two when they should be in a pod, and that all just kind of brings them down.
Not much, Robert. We're just talking about whales, laying down some good data for evolution deniers to try and respond to. They do their best. Oh yeah, so we were talking about Myocetus. The movie Blackfish has details all this. Oh, you're talking about the orca thing. Okay. I keep getting confused. Sorry, I'm such a professional. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah. Okay, so one of the definitive aspects of a social species is they show care for their young and their elderly. They have social stratification and kind of caste systems, but they tend to care for their young and their elderly. That's part of what, makes a social species a social species. So it doesn't surprise me at all that an orca would bond to its baby that didn't make it and still show care for it, even though it didn't.
Yeah, they carry them around on their snoot for days sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but that's very humanizing.
Do you think that orcas picked up their ambushing techniques from when they were still these type of half in between animals, like kind of like alligators?
I could for sure see that. Yeah, so a lot of behavior is genetic, and I'm sure that they have some sort of instinctual genes that drive pack behavior. It seems
I know that it's a learned trait also. Like that's something that's handed down. That
it's and there's genes that control traits just like suggestibility and pliability and temperament, and those things would all impact how well an individual orca learns those techniques from its parents.
Because I know every pod has their own techniques for everything, for their own hunting techniques, their own.
They have their own dialects. Yeah.
I mean, that's super. Those animals are so smart. Like, it's amazing
very
how intelligent
cool
a
animals.
whale really is.
It's like one of my favorite parts of going to the Natural History Museum is just looking at all of the whale ancestor species fossils and just thinking about how the existence of marine mammals is explained by how ancient the planet is. It existed long enough that generations and generations and generations of these organisms were changed by selection and mutation. And it's hard to believe, sure, but especially if you're really fixated on what's intuitive to you. But we don't have to work within the limitations of what you're capable of understanding, your cognitive limitations. And I think to most people, their cognitive limitations aren't so intense that they can't understand this, that this is exactly what the data set would look like if modern cetaceans evolved from ancient artiodactyl, even-toed, ungulate, quadrupedal land mammals. Learn that sentence and say that 7 times fast. Even-toed, ungulate, artiodactyl, quadrupedal.
It's just willful dishonesty.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
Because it's just the whole gotta have everyone in between again. Like, I won't believe it unless you got every single tiny one of them. The A, B, C, D all the way.
Yeah, and even if you show them that truly, they're not going to believe it.
Yeah, that's their only little get out of jail free card that they try to use. And I see all the professional creationists use it. Like, even Donnie, all of them, they all try to use that. Like, oh, well, you can't show me everyone, so it can't be real. And it's like,
and this is what we're showing with the sequence. We're showing really typical versions of all of the important suites: the basilosaurids, the derudinids, the rotacetids.
Characteristics move to be more specialized.
Yeah,
and you see the nose made more specialized, the teeth got more specialized as the animals move through the line of evolution. then it's just amazing that they can just try to be willfully dishonest about it. Like, oh, that's not possible. Even though, you got A, B, and D.
Well, I've never seen a cow give birth to a whale, so I've never seen a wolf give birth to a whale. Blah, blah, well, right. So, and yeah, you don't need a dishonest person to admit the truth, but it would be nice if they did, because we want them to stop doing damage to people's lives, to stop ruining children. Mostly is the real cost.
Making people disbelieve or making people think that scientific knowledge is somehow against them.
Yeah,
or somehow it's being used to hold them down and oppress them, when scientific knowledge is something that everybody should have, no matter what their religion is. I mean,
the biggest damage young Earth creationism does is ruining children. But another close second is that it funnels people into anti-vaccine hysteria a lot.
All of that.
So those are the two main reasons that it warrants being responded to. But other than that, I would be perfectly happy to just ignore them if they weren't so public about spewing nonsense about science.
Yeah.
So this is Derudon, and Derudon might be my favorite. We could probably do a whole video just on Derudon. We could do a whole video on many of the species here, but we're trying not to beat you over the head with this data set. We want you to fall in love with it and go learn more about it yourself. But Derudon is...
Teeth like that make me afraid to go into the water. Even if it's an indoor swimming pool, I'm not going in the water.
Yeah, look at those teeth.
Yeah, for
chompers.
sure. Yeah, this thing definitely looks like a predator. And it's got a very streamlined body. I love how streamlined its body is. And you can see it has the four limbs, and it has that pentadactyl forelimb, the one bones, two bones, many bones. And it still has the hint of the hind limbs, but right above its name there, you can see those tiny hind limbs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that look almost like a parentheses. They're so tiny. They're unfused and are no longer connected to the spinal cord at all. So that means they would have just been hanging limp and useless on the actual organism. And you can see they've had to attach them with a little like metal screw and a metal rod there, just to show that that they're there. Even So this is a great transition. It shows how you can have these hind limbs. It's a perfect step between hind limbs and no hind limbs, where these hind limbs are just useless and they're just hanging off the rear end of the organism, creating drag and slowing it down. I think I missed Basilosaurus, but we'll talk about. I think I have Basilosaurus in there later. So if we don't, just remind me to talk about Basilosaurus if I don't have a slide for it. I'm so organized and professional, you guys. This is the involucrum. This is one of the dead to rights clues that every organism in this set of species we're talking about belongs in that set. Only cetaceans have these involucrums. We've never found an organism outside of the set Artiodactyla data set that has one of these.
Is that the ear bone?
Yes. Okay. This is in the tympanic bulla. And this is how whales are capable of hearing underwater. We have a softer bone in our tympanic bulla. They have this very hard bone, and it's we've named it the involucrum, and you can see several types of it here from different modern species and from the species in the ancestral suite of species.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, this is from John Peters. Yeah, this is from John Peters, and he's got arrows pointing out the diagnostic criteria showing how these things are similar.
Well, yeah, it's like when they want to go through their kinds list, and one of the the specifications is it has to have the same features, and it's like, well, okay, well then only whales in that group have ear bones that are all constructed the same way. Not any animal ever out of all of the animals around have that same construction aside from the ones that are in that group. And it showed there. I think that's the zinger. Like I really feel like that's the one that, because you can argue
Yeah.
away the pelvis bones like old Hovind does. Oh, they're there to help him bang, or but there's no other
Their
way.
best option is to cry black swan fallacy, which is actually kind of like crying uncle, unless you've got a white swan, which they don't. Are you familiar with the black swan fallacy?
I've kind of heard it. It's
Right. So, like, if you had never seen anything but black swans and someone showed you a billion black swans, you might be reasonable in assuming that white swans don't exist. But the second someone shows you a white swan, you should then accept that white swans exist.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. That's the black swan fallacy.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I mean, that's definitely a view of it right there. Like, I mean, because I've asked him a million times. I get into those conversations pretty deep on Facebook, and like, I've asked him a million times to show me, like, okay, what's a group and a kind, and how do you select the animals that belong in that kind, and then it's like, well, there's a thing called comparative anatomy that shows you exactly the ear bones in the whales that make them all the same kind.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a hell of a coincidence to try and get me to accept that only cetaceans have these bones, that we haven't found them in anything else, but somehow we can't be certain enough that these species belong in this set for sure.
yeah.
And okay, so I think this is the last one I have, the last slide here. And this is just mentioning the other marine mammals. So I think we've walked through kind of how evolution can be confirmed through the marine mammal data set. Just looking at marine mammals starts to make evolution come into focus.
Yeah,
And we have another set of marine mammals here, and they all fit that purview very well. We have the pinnipeds and the sirenians, and then the mustelids and a couple of the ursids. So the pinnipeds is seals and walruses. The sirenians are dugongs and manatees. And then mustelids are otters, and the ursids are the polar bears. So those are all the marine mammals we have on the planet. And there's actually not a lot of marine mammals. It's just those groups.
There's the wolf pack, though, in Washington State that's
Yeah.
becoming aquatic. And I really like that, too, as an example of evolution in action.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they spend 70% of their lives in the ocean. And they gain, I think it's like they get 80% of their diet out of the ocean. And because of it, their feet are getting more webbed, their coats are getting thinner. They're starting to be, they're smart enough too that they can pull out crab traps and take crabs out of the traps that are just left by the fishermen, right? Because they're dogs, so they're geniuses. And it's a perfect example of maybe in 100,000, a couple 100,000 years, maybe they'll look like a seal. Or, give them another, a million years and maybe they'll start looking more like a whale. Like I think that's just one of those super cool little, like, yep, there it is in action. Like we are seeing it happen right now.
Yep, and so that's the last slide I have on the marine mammals. I have other stuff in this presentation, but we just went over the whale stuff, and I can take it off stage now that and open up the panel and welcome our first guests here.
Hey guys, good to see
Hello.
you.
Hello, nice to meet you
I'm
in
Jeremy, by the
person
way.
finally,
Nice to meet you.
Rebecca.
Thank you.
Hey, Rebecca, it's no reflection on you, but just as you come in, I've got to go. I have to go into town and take care of something real quick.
Oh, no problem.
I'm sorry. I'll be listening.
Okay,
But
good to see
Typical
you, Scott.
evolutionist
Have a good night, man.
running
Here.
from the brave young
I'm
Earth
buddy, I'm
creation.
He's
scared.
lying,
I'm
Rebecca.
scared.
He's lying.
He's
I'm afraid
scared
those
of
whales
you.
are going to get me. I'm going to go climb the water tower so they won't get me because that one with teeth scared me. So I will talk to y'all later.
Yep.
See you
have a good
later,
night.
Scott.
Okay, thanks. So I have took notes on your presentation, and there's something really important I think I need to counter. And then I also just have some questions for you guys based on what you said.
All right.
Does that sound
Okay.
good?
Yeah.
All right. You showed pictures of vestigial pelvis bones.
Mhm.
Okay. Have you spent any time looking into what those bones are used for?
Yeah. So for about
Can't hear you,
2
Austin.
or 3 years, I was helping maintain and relocate the Philip
Austin, I think you're
Gingrich.
muted.
Oh, am I? I shouldn't
No, I
be.
can.
I
you
can
hear
hear
you.
him.
Oh, you can? I can't hear
We're
him.
hearing him.
Yeah, no, I was going to say for 2 or 3 years, I helped manage and relocate the Philip Gingrich whale fossil collection. So I learned a lot about them while I was doing that. The conventional science is that they are the unfused bones of the vestigial pelvis of an ancestor. And the reason they believe that is because they have a pubis, an ilium, and an ischium, much like the fused pelvic girdle would have. So they have that. And interestingly, they exist in a lot of modern whale, orca, and dolphin species, but some species don't have them at all, actually. Some species have them. They're so tiny, they're just a little sliver of bone, and you can easily overlook them with an examination. You wouldn't even find them if you looked for them. And in others, they're just completely absent. And so this suggests that cetacean species could still successfully mate even if they didn't have the vestigial version of the bone anymore.
Okay, well, I just looked up because I wanted to see, is it a non-functional, thing within the whales? And what I saw is that the ilium anchors the reproductive organs, supports the bladder, rectum, reproductive tract, and prevents internal displacement. It offers an insertion point for hypaxial body wall musculature. The pubis is the origin point for the crus of the penis, and it anchors the erector penis muscle. So
Y'all didn't know it was going to get sexy here on Scientific
Still
Origins tonight.
vestigial.
Okay.
It's not being used for what it was in the beginning, so it's
Right.
vestigial.
well, but
It's not legs anymore.
that's the assumption that you're making. I'm countering the idea that it is vestigial.
It's
And
not an
so
assumption
I'm
when you see
saying
it happening.
seems to have a function, and so we shouldn't act as if it's a useless remaining.
Well, vestigial
organ.
doesn't mean useless.
Yeah,
It just means it's not being used for what it was.
Yeah.
It's no longer hip. It's no longer hip bones. It's no longer flippers, legs, or anything. And we know this because we can look through the fossil record and see the transitional species. We can see the slow morphology change as we go through the fossils and see those bones disappear and become more and more vestigial, more and more basal, or more and more, Leslie. So it's right. It's there. It's not like it's made up or guessed or.
I'm trying to wait because I know Mike wants to make a point. I do have a response, but I'll let Mike make his point.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the point is that those attachments in the pelvis had those functions in the ancestors also. Basically, the reproductive organs and the attachment of abdominal muscles and all, and the bladder and all of that. And what happened in the whale is it just lost the function of being able to walk on those things, right? So it lost the functions that it no longer needed, but it kept the functions that it did. So that's the case with all vestigial parts, basically. We call it vestigial, but that's kind of a word that we use it's kind of a judgment word, right? So you don't want to get too hung up on it. But it has a function. It's still there, and it has the same functions that it had before. It just lost the walkie functions, which is kind of what we would predict with evolution. You understand that?
Okay, what I understand is that you guys are telling a story about what happened, and
Yep.
you're supposed to be presenting evidence. Okay, You're supposed to be. I feel like you're not listening to me because you're putting up a new thing. Are you going to listen to my point? Or are you
am
just ready to
listening.
move on to your point?
I am listening. I'm actually
I
pulling
still
up.
can't hear you, Austin. I don't know why.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
That's weird.
Yeah, Jeremy, you might have to leave and come back. It's a glitch. I've had it happen once before on StreamYard, and I don't know why, but it,
Okay, give me one
it can
second.
happen. So you might just have to leave and come back. But yeah, I'll just wait until you're done making your points, because I don't think you're listening while you're flipping through slides.
Oh, and I want to address your story thing. Okay, if I can. I'd like to clear that up for you, Rebecca. Austin?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no. Oh, you want me to go? I thought Rebecca wanted you to go. Okay, Rebecca, the story we come up with is called our hypothesis. Okay, a hypothesis is, if you can call it a
Don't
story.
patronize me, Mark. Obviously, I know what a hypothesis is. My point is,
Mark.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Okay. Okay. No, I'm not patronizing you. I'm
You're
not patronizing you.
Yes,
I'm
you
trying
are.
to
Yes, you are. Look,
No, I'm not.
You guys are offering a story about the past. You're supposed to be offering evidence for your story. I'm countering your evidence, and all you're doing is telling me a story. I'm telling you, this structure in the whale, it has an important function, many important functions now. So the story you're telling about it, you can tell the story. That's fine. That's what you guys believe, but that is not evidence for your story.
Okay, the story is the hypothesis. The hypothesis is that these functions existed in the ancestors of the whales, right? That, it controlled the penis or whatever and supported the bladder, and it allowed the thing to walk, with the TBX4 genes and developing the limbs and all of that. And what happened is they lost the TBX4 genes and some other genes that basically made the pelvis connect to those bones, right? That was what was lost. That is the hypothesis. The evidence would be in the molecular structure of those genes, the molecular comparisons, and in the fossils and the anatomy, right? So that's the evidence for our hypothesis. Now, you keep calling our hypothesis a story, and I'm not patronizing, I'm not trying to be condescending here. You're the one that's being condescending by calling our hypothesis a story. It's not a story, it's a hypothesis. Okay, we have a hypothesis about common ancestry, right?
If this is your hypothesis, how do you plan on testing it?
We asked the question, what would the data look like if whales evolved from even-toed, ungulate, quadrupedal, artiodactyl land mammal ancestors? And the answer is all the data we have. It looks exactly like what you would expect. So those vestigial pelvis bones are an example. These vestigial fetal teeth buds are an example. These genes that are left over, all these things we talked about in the presentation. I'm not trying to flip through the presentation because I'm ignoring you. I want you to see the stuff we went over in the presentation. I don't know if you were here from the beginning.
I watched the entire thing. I took notes on the entire thing. So you don't need to go back to the presentation. I assure you, I understood your presentation, and I have notes on all of it. So I'm ready to talk about it.
Okay. So are whales mammals is the first question.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So if a whale is a mammal, we have to explain that. I would explain it by saying whales are mammals because their ancestors were land mammals and they evolved from those land mammal ancestors, and that's why they're mammals. How would you explain the fact that whales are mammals?
Well, I don't know that I need to explain that they're mammals, but you asked why, how we have to explain how is a mammal living in the water.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting question, right?
And so you've come up with one hypothesis about, or you've come up with an idea about what might have happened. Now, what other hypothesis are you comparing that to? Because when you're talking about historical events from the past, you have to have competing hypotheses. You can't just make up a story and
Well,
then say that's the correct answer.
Would the competing hypothesis be from a 6-day creation? Is that kind of where you're coming from? Like you want to say that it was God did it?
This is supposed to be you guys presenting evidence for evolution.
I'm just asking a question.
I'm not here presenting. I'm not
is
here
that
presenting.
You could say
other
another
hypothesis, though.
Yeah,
I'm
you could say
seeking-
another hypothesis would be something like Lamarckian evolution, that whales evolved from ancient mammals, but they did so in a Lamarckian fashion. They did so by acquiring traits that the individuals acquired throughout their lifetime. But obviously that hypothesis is wrong, and the hypothesis of common ancestry and mutation and selection is way more close to the truth.
Well, it's too broad. So
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
the basically the null hypothesis is that they did not evolve from a hippopotamus ancestor, right? That they were somewhere else on the phylogeny tree, right? So our basically the hypothesis that we're comparing it against is that they did not evolve from that common branch. That we draw those little dots in a phylogeny tree when you go back. Okay, and so we're trying to support that that little dot, was the most recent dot between these two groups. And so the null hypothesis would be that no, it was somewhere else. That's it. And that's what we do. So we're showing you evidence. We accept that the whole tree is connected. And we want to show you how the evidence for that tree being connected. And we do that by picking a point and showing you that these are closer than anything else. Like we're closer to rabbits than we are to dogs and cats, that sort of thing. So that would be our hypothesis. The null hypothesis would be, no, that's wrong. We're closer to cats than we are to whatever. You understand?
Yes, but is there any option that you're considering other than evolution?
Well, yeah, we can, I guess, but no, I'm not, because I don't know what that would be. I have no idea what that would be.
Okay, so Mike is not considering anything else. Jeremy and Austin, are you?
Yeah, what would it be?
I am an old Earth.
Supported, maybe, but evolution is supported through evidence, through multiple fields.
We're not there yet. I'm just asking, when you're looking at anything, when you're considering hypotheses, okay, is there any other hypothesis other than evolution that you can compare to see?
I'm an old Earth, evolution, globe, heliocentric. Like, I believe the Earth's a globe. It rotates around the sun. It's really, really ancient, and evolution is true, and vaccines aren't poison. And I think these are all just conspiracy theories on the same level as one another. Like, it's just that people denying evolution, saying vaccines are dangerous, saying the moon landing didn't happen, denying that the Earth is a globe. They're just unskilled people on the internet that don't know what they're talking about.
Okay,
well, I don't know what that has to do with this conversation, because you didn't answer my question. And I don't know if you're making those accusations against me. Let me just clear it up.
I'm as willing to
vaccines.
believe.
I believe we landed on the moon. Nothing that you applied there applies to me. Okay, but I'm trying to
evolution is supported by the exact same kind of evidence.
So, okay, but we're trying to get to that, and I'm trying to figure out, when you're considering this, is there any other hypothesis that you're considering other than evolution?
What would that be, Rebecca? Give me an example of what that would be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not my job. You guys are. You're
what do you mean? Why is it my job? I don't believe there's any other option.
Because this is the story that you are teaching to the public. And it's supposed to be a scientific theory. So I'm trying to find out, is this really a scientific theory? Mike says he's not considering any other hypothesis other than evolution. What about Austin and Jeremy? Are you considering any other hypotheses?
I am a fan of the modern synthesis, but I'm also a fan of the extended evolutionary synthesis, which incorporates evolutionary embryology and developmental biology.
Okay, those are all within evolution. Is there anything other than evolution that you're considering?
What, like divine creation?
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm asking
You're
Right.
asking the question.
You're the
I'm
one.
asking to
You're
get
the
an
one with
answer
the
from
idea,
you, not to
Rebecca.
give you an
Say it out
answer.
loud. Say it out loud, Rebecca. Say what your option is that you're talking about.
I know my
You're talking
options,
about
but I'm
independent.
trying to understand yours. I'm trying to understand if you're doing
Right.
science here. Jeremy, do you have another hypothesis? I'll take that as a no from Austin because I've given him 3 tries. Jeremy, are you considering any other
Extended
hypotheses?
evolutionary synthesis and modern synthesis are the only ones that are likely to be true. Other people peddle hypotheses such as specific ancestry. That's probably the best version of creationism available, but I don't consider it a scientific hypothesis that's in contention.
Exactly. I don't think that intelligent design is an option, and I also don't think that kind creation is an option, because we have evidence that says it doesn't. That I think a hypothesis should have some sort of evidence that can be used to further that hypothesis. So you can't just say, okay, well, poof, there it is, because there's no evidence for poof, there it is. And which would happen in an intelligent design situation or in a 6-day creation situation.
I guess one other option is that, you know, two single-celled populations, one could have evolved whales and one could have evolved hippos, right? That would be another option, that they came entirely from single-celled animal, went to multicellular, all the way up to hippos and whales. And of course, you know, we have so much evidence against that because of the similarity of the genetics, right? So, I mean, but the thing is, Rebecca, what you don't want to say out loud is that you're proposing independent kind creation, that there was a whale kind and that there was a hippo kind, right? Well, why don't you say it out loud? Why don't you ever talk about your and okay,
I do, by the way, but I don't want you guys
Okay,
to get sidetracked because I'm trying to figure out, okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, if that's your hypothesis that these are independently created kinds, what would be your null hypothesis? What would you compare that against, and what would be evidence for that happening? Basically, that they were separately created.
Yeah, we're not switching to me, because this is about you guys presenting the evidence for evolution. And I'm responding to your evidence. Look, I'm happy to talk about if you guys want to come on and talk about my young earth beliefs, great. But let's do that in that setting, because what I've noticed is when people can't support evolution with scientific evidence, they would rather just point and try to take apart young earth.
What do you call fossils or comparative anatomy or taxonomy?
We can't even get to guys. We can't even get to that because look, I'm happy to go
because
through.
You're
all
trying
of
to walk us down a trail. You want us to answer your question like,
no.
oh, we believe there was God. That's what it is.
I'm trying to figure out if you guys are being scientific or not. And if you're being scientific and you're if you're looking into the past, if you're looking,
to be an active participant of the conversation. You can't ask us questions and then not expect us to ask you a question that you need to answer also. That isn't being a fair interlocutor.
Having an overwhelming hold on one second. I'm the host here, so let me weigh in. Having an overwhelming consilience of evidence is absolutely being very scientific. Having genetic evidence, having fossil evidence, having biogeographical evidence, having embryological evidence, having all these different types of evidence all fitting each other and supporting the same conclusion. That's exactly what science is. Science is taking the question, are whales mammals? Asking that question, asking what data we would expect to find if whales are in fact the descendants of even-toed, ungulate, ancient artiodactyl land mammal ancestors, and going and finding that data, which is exactly what happened historically with the whale evolution data set. We didn't know Pachycetus existed when we started forming this theory. We didn't know we were going to dig up Indo-Hyas when we started digging around in Pakistan and Egypt, but we found them. That we postulated that because whales are mammals, they evolved from a a population of ancient land mammals, and we postulated where they would be, and we went and found them. That is absolutely being scientific. That is science to a T. That's like textbook science.
I know that you think it is, Austin. Okay. And if you're patient enough, we can walk through everything that you said, and I will give you the reasons that I don't think you're being scientific about this. Okay. Now, Jeremy, in response to what you said, if in response to what you said, I am trying to keep us on the subject. Okay. The subject today that I was invited to talk about is responding to your evidence presented for whale evolution. That's what I am trying to do. Okay. I'm happy to talk about my beliefs at any time when that is the topic of conversation. But I actually sat through your entire presentation, took notes, and I'm ready to talk about that. So I don't want to get distracted into a young earth conversation. Okay, I'm trying to figure out if you guys are being scientific. And you've given me point number one, that you have decided evolution is true. And therefore, when you look at the evidence, you are no longer considering anything else. What that means, okay, now you have the opportunity to prove me wrong, okay?
Yeah.
And the way that you can prove me wrong, is by allowing your theory to be falsifiable.
I agree.
Okay. And so, I'm not sure that you're ready to do that.
I absolutely am.
Okay. Because
if you give evidence that's supported, you could change my mind. I think that's the best answer that can be given.
I love that answer. I love that.
That is absolutely the truth. If you give me evidence that can be supported, scientifically supported, then you can change my mind on anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
Can I interject? Like when I look at evolution, what I'm always looking at is my alternative possibility is that it could not have happened that way. That there's evidence, that basically it's like, damn, this could not have happened through natural processes. So I have to go and look at each individual step, right, and make sure that that isn't the case. Okay, so that's my alternative. But you're the one that brought up this whole. You're saying that because we don't consider God did it, that we're not being scientific, or that we don't consider that.
I didn't say you had to consider God did it. I'm
something else. Okay,
I'm saying
something
what
else
is
did
your
it.
alternative?
I'm still talking, Rebecca.
Yes,
I'm still talking. Okay. So you're saying that we don't consider something else did it. Well, I kind of do when I'm saying that I'm always looking for something that's impossible, right? So I'm looking for an impossible transition. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So, I mean, I am considering that it's not possible. That's why I look into the details, because I'm considering that, hell, this might be crazy. I mean, it couldn't have happened that way. It would have been some other thing, spaceships or some damn thing. But I mean, I'm always looking at that possibility. But you're trying to say we're not scientific because we're not considering what? I am considering that it could be impossible. So what am I not considering?
What I'm saying, I'm not telling you what you need to consider. I'm saying that when we are look, there are certain things in science that we can do right now. We can do it in the lab. We can put it in a petri dish. We can watch what happens, right? But when it comes to historical events, we have to use a different process. We can't just come up with one story, and right. I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean we can't come up with one idea and run with that idea without considering other ideas. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I went outside and my grass was wet. Okay. Would it be appropriate for me to say, the reason my grass is wet is because 100 dogs came by and peed on my yard simultaneously? And then if someone asks me, have you considered any other possibilities? I say, no, that's what happened. I know that's what happened. Okay, maybe it was 99 dogs. Maybe it was 79 dogs. but it
Maybe
had to be
someone left a
dogs peeing
sprinkler
on
on.
my grass. Okay, that's not a scientific way of examining an event from the past, and that
I
is
agree.
what you guys are doing.
No, it's not. We are
Okay,
using
how
the
is it different?
evidence. We are using the available evidence to lead down a way to answer the questions of our hypothesis.
Right.
That is not the same thing as saying, "Oh, a bunch of dogs peed," because it's there's no evidence for that unless you have it. Like if you could see dog prints that went by, then you could say, okay, that dog probably peed there. And then that would be you you would take the steps of the scientific steps and you would use the evidence that's available to lead toward your hypothesis, which is all evolution does. Evolution looks at the fossils, they look at where the fossils are found, they take all the available evidence that there's there and they put it together and they make a timeline. And then they support that timeline through the fossils by showing, like with whales, which is the topic, the nose slowly changes on these skulls as they move through time, as these traits become more specialized, as these simpler, less specialized traits happen, and then you watch them as they move through the morphological change that's shown through the fossil record. So you are using the available evidence. It's not the same as saying, well, because 100 dogs could have came by. If there was 100 dog prints, then there's evidence you could use. But to just say, okay, well, they peed on it, that's not the same. That's not the same thing as evolution.
Well, it is to
Yeah,
me.
if
It
you
is
can
to me.
find if you can find a cetacean, a modern cetacean, deeper in the fossil record than you find Indohyus or Pakicetus, evolution would be falsified. Whale evolution would be toast. We don't find that data. We find data that fits the hypothesis that modern cetaceans evolved from ancient artiodactyls.
I feel like you're just being willfully dishonest because it's not.
Guys.
God did it.
Okay, look. Okay, all right, guys. Look, I'm serious. I have 3 pages of notes here about your supposed evidence that I want to talk about. But you just called me willfully dishonest. Okay.
I agree. I think you are.
I have plenty to say about your supposed evidence because whether you believe it or not, you have not offered evidence for your story today. Okay. So and I'm ready to bring the goods on that. Okay.
Let's do it. Then let's move past this and let's get to the goods.
So what would the data look like? What would the data look like if evolution were true?
If evolution were true, what would the data look like? Well, we would have a evolutionary tree, right? That would match genetically, morphologically, molecular, machines. It would form a tree that would branch out, that we would be able to group things together, right? If evolution were true. Okay. So if that is not true, is evolution falsified?
Yeah.
If you had
Jeremy,
so
thank you.
If you have a whale being more common to other whales, orcas, and dolphins, and then being more common to artiodactyls, and then being more common to mammals in general, you have a phylogenetic hierarchy that matches the evolutionary model. If you have something like whales being more common to oranges than being common to other artiodactyls, you would have something that falsifies the evolutionary model. We have genetic evidence that whales are more common to hippos and artiodactyls than they are to anything else outside of the set Artiodactyla group, the whales, orcas, and dolphins. We went over that during the presentation.
Yeah, and I would like to go slowly through each one of those claims, okay? But what I want to do first, and I'm speaking to Jeremy because you said a clear yes. And I want to tell you, Google, check me on this. What I'm telling you is true. The data does not match the tree. The genetics don't match the morphology. The morphology doesn't match up with the molecular machines. The tree,
Tell
it
me-
doesn't exist.
Give
Okay,
me
and
the source for that.
I'll
What's
yeah,
an
I'll-
Tell me to
example?
Google it. Give me the
yeah,
source.
I'll give you the way to Google it now. But you,
I know
if
how to
you,
use
Oh.
Google.
okay,
I
what
mean-
I mean is you have to start thinking critically, because
I
you're not
do.
going to be able to. Okay. So if you're thinking critically, what does convergent evolution mean? When you say something convergently evolved, what does that mean?
That means that
Hold
the same
on a second. No. Wait. No. We're going to address what was just said, that the genetics doesn't match the phylogeny, because that is absolutely not true. That is not correct. We know that through things like cytochrome C. We know that through things like captured viral DNA. We know that through intron and exon comparisons. So this is just wrong to say that these things don't match. You see similar levels of similarity in. So for when I talked about how hippos and whales are the most common ancestor, we showed during the presentation the beta casein protein in the genetic comparison that was being made there. We're talking about comparisons in the genes, and they are indeed matching up to taxonomic phylogenies. So that's just incorrect.
Okay. And that would, I admit, be carrying us off of our topic, because I'm giving you a very broad topic there. And Jeremy, if you want to have a separate conversation about it another time, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
This is something that happens a lot. Like, people just assume that I don't think critically. It happens a lot with, I know we're not trying to get into a religious thing, but I grew up in a Mennonite family, and I know the Bible very well. And when I get into conversations online with people, they just automatically assume that I know nothing about the Bible, or that I haven't critically looked at the Bible or the stories in it that made me decide to be an atheist. It's the same with science. If I find something that I don't think is real, or that doesn't sound like it's right, I check the sources. I don't know if you saw, I'm a first-year biology student, and that is required of us, is to check the sources. So I have looked up things like comparative anatomy. I've looked up the way the fossil record really is placed in the geologic column. I've looked how they go from, I've seen, I mean, not in person, but I've seen pictures of the way fossils are laid out in the geologic column, how they start off really simple and they move through more complex, and then life stops, and then it happens again, and it's happened 5 times on our planet, which is all represented there in the fossil record, where they're touchable, testable, repeatable things you can do. So give me the source. I'll look up the source. I'll look it up, and if it's not from Answers in Genesis or Creation's Institute, then I'll take it real seriously.
Okay, it's not one source, you can look up just pick any organism, look at it, the phylogenetic tree that it's on, and then start looking for contradictions, because I have not yet found one phylogenetic tree that doesn't have at least one contradiction. And I haven't even explored all the possible contradictions.
What do you consider a contradiction to be?
And I'm talking about even in the published literature. Okay.
But what do you consider it? What do you
when
consider
they say
a contradiction?
we have a hard time getting these phylogenetic trees to work out?
Yeah, that's pretty basic. Like, that's pretty basic. Like, what are you saying is contradiction? Like, are you saying that that a rabbit's been found in the Cambrian? Or are you saying that it's a contradiction to say that bears and seals are related? Like, what do you consider to be a contradiction that I should look into?
Oh, no, it's much worse than finding a rabbit in the Cambrian. Okay. It's the total destruction of the evolutionary tree.
Great,
okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an example trying to tie it back to our conversation about whales.
Great.
Okay. So, but please, guys, then let me make the full point. Please,
I won't say another word until you're done.
Let me explain what you said, and then why this is contradicted. Okay?
Is everything okay? Like, are we being unfair to you?
You
do
guys
you
are.
feel
I mean,
distressed?
it's a little frustrating because
Okay, I'm sorry you're feeling frustrated, Go ahead and
I know
present
it's
what
just
you want to present.
Okay, thank you. I'm frustrated because I have a lot of points that I would like to make, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make them.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right. You mentioned, and I want to find it, two body parts, the involucrum and astragalus, and you said they've never been outside the artiodactyls group. This is another reason we can be sure that cetaceans are part of the artiodactyls group. Is that correct? Am I misrepresenting that in any way?
It's really, really strong evidence. It would be freakish for them to have these bones that are only found in cetaceans, and to have that just be a coincidence, like a black swan fallacy, like finding billions of black swans and never finding a white swan. Well, like we've only found cetaceans and cetacean ancestors with this involucrum, and the astragalus is only found in artiodactyls.
Okay.
So it's possible that there's a non-artiodactyl or a non-cetacean out there that has an involucrum or an astragalus, but we haven't found one.
Now, what would happen if you did find one and it wasn't anywhere where you thought on the whale line? Like, let's say in a bat.
That would be
We found
a bit
this.
of a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not even saying that's possible. I'm just saying, if you found one in a bat, would that be evidence that whales evolved from bats?
It would be evidence that bats evolved from artiodactyl ancestors as well.
Okay. All right. So, and even though bats have a lot of other similarities with other with other things that would make it like that would be a strange.
I don't think I know enough about bats to weigh in, but that's my initial instinct.
Are you trying to go toward the echolocation?
Yes.
In bats and whales?
Yes. Yes.
That's just convergent evolution.
Ah, thank you, Jeremy.
That's what it is. It's just
Thank
two
you.
features that evolved separately in separate animals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if I told you, oh, the involucrum in Pakicetus is just convergent with the whale?
Well, then you'd have to look at the other parts that follow, and you'd have to look at the other evidence to help support your hypothesis. So then you would have to look at, okay, now you're looking at the nose bones change. Now you're looking at the hip construction that was the same, but now is slowly becoming non-existent. You'd have to use other information.
Right.
I don't think that's.
I think I have some good evidence that it's convergent evolution rather than coming from a common ancestor. Here's my evidence. Okay. In order for a land mammal to go to a whale, you'd have to have the transformation of forelimbs to flippers, loss of back limbs, ball and socket joint for a fluke, nostrils to blowhole, total rearrangement, move up past the eyes, skull rearrangement, hearing mechanism changed from hearing through air to hearing through water, development of echolocation, eyes shift position and lens become more spherical for water vision, teeth to baleen, restructuring of the diaphragm to make it more muscular for rapid air exchange, development of the ret mirabile, I don't know how to pronounce that, dense blood vessels that absorb the shock from the stored oxygenated blood, develop blubber, a body transformation, ears become internalized, specialized kidneys for processing high salt content, develop collapsible lungs for dealing with underwater pressure, and external testicles change to internal. So that's a lot of changes for a land mammal to have to make to become a whale. So what seems like a more obvious thing? Well,
not intelligent
I'd
design.
say convergent evolution.
It's just an appeal to incredulity.
Yeah.
Okay, Austin, you misuse this a lot.
No, I really
what is an
don't.
appeal to incredulity? What is an appeal to incredulity?
You're saying you can't imagine this big number. You can't envision this big number of changes happening. Therefore, they didn't. And then ignoring all the evidence that shows all these transitions happen. We went over a bunch of them.
Hold on. Right now, I've actually entered into your worldview. Okay. I've entered into your evolutionary worldview to try to show you from inside why it's inconsistent. Okay. So I haven't even suggested this can't happen. I'm suggesting from in your worldview why convergent evolution would be a better explanation for the involucrum.
Jeremy explained it beautifully.
Okay. So
because we have all this other data. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what is the other data that you're appealing to? The things that you showed?
The rest of the fossils.
Okay, we'll go through that then. Okay. Because I know that these things are very convincing to you guys. Look, a lot of the things that are shown have been misleading the public for years. Okay.
They really have.
Okay. All right, but I won't even go there since you guys are don't think that's true. But I want to suggest to you that when you look at the fossils you're looking at, all you're seeing is an organism that exists.
Rebecca, hold on a second. I want to ask, how do you confirm that these things are being misrepresented?
Wait, how do I confirm? Because
how have you gotten this impression?
Okay, let me give you an example. The Myocetus. Okay, you even mentioned it. It gives birth on land. Okay, there's good evidence that it was a land mammal. It may have spent time in the water. It may be a good swimmer. Okay, but when it is depicted, at least in this paper that I reviewed on my channel, it's depicted as an aquatic creature. And there's other things too, because when you look at the little transitions, even in animals that have no sign of a fluke, they'll put a little fluke on it. I'll tell you which one they did that on in this one. And this is a published peer-reviewed paper. Okay, so let's not say that this is old news or they did this a long time ago before they knew anything.
I was kind of expecting something like a museum accession number. I guess a report isn't a bad source to cite, but you're talking about the actual artifacts themselves, and it's bizarre for me to hear somebody say that a set of fossils that I moved and maintained myself are being misrepresented. I've seen these fossils. I've seen whale remains. I've held them. I've looked at them in the facilities where they're stored. It's bizarre to me to hear that.
I don't know if you can see this or not, but Myocetus in this picture is depicted as an aquatic animal with a little beginnings of a tail fluke, even though that is not what its fossil shows. So there's no fluke.
Depict it all kinds
show me a picture of the fossil. Yeah, Austin has it.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Pull it up then, and you'll see that
I have
here
one.
it's
I have one shown right up
Mike
here.
has it.
Myocetus, right? But now, what you're talking about, Rebecca, is that scientist in that paper, he wanted to put a little picture of each of these things. So he spent probably an hour Googling the common pictures and just threw them up there. There's a lot of really bad artist renditions. And what you're complaining about is that the artist rendition is wrong. So then evolution is wrong? That doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we are responding. I'm responding to your question about how has this been misrepresented to the public? And I'm showing you one way that it's being misrepresented to the public in the scientific literature.
So then are you saying that
No.
It was a completely separate animal that had no descendants, no ancestors, that was just walking around and it accidentally had convergent evolution of the same ear bone? Is that kind of what you're trying to get at? Because it kind of sounds of how it.
Okay, are we talking about Pakicetus or Myocetus, or
I'm
what are we
talking about
talking about?
Myocetus, the one that you just said was in
Right.
that paper.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that it was just, well, I'm trying to stay away from biblical stuff, but we're going to go with it because I think that's where you want to be.
No.
Are you saying that they are a separate kind of animal that just was walking around by itself and just, had no ancestors or descendants at all? And if it did, it all stayed in the same kind. Are you
I'm
trying to
not
say that
presenting
they
my
lived at the
view.
same time as the other members of their line? Is what I'm getting at.
Okay, I'm not presenting my view. I'm examining the evidence for
I'm
your
asking
view.
you questions about your evidence. So it's not really
But
me
it's
asking
your
your
evidence
view.
on trial here, not mine. You're
You
presenting
brought it
a
up.
story.
It's your burden of proof. You
No.
brought it up. You think that you are saying that it can't be a member of the Cetaceans because it's being misrepresented as a half aquatic animal. You're the one that brought it up. You need to
No,
be
hold
supportive
up.
of your claims.
Hold up. I didn't say it can't be a transition based on this picture. Okay, I didn't say that. I'm showing you that picture in response to you guys saying, how has this been misrepresented to the public? I picked this out as a misrepresentation to the public. So I'm not saying it can't be a transition. It
I
very
don't
well
think
could
I've
be. If your view
ever
is correct,
read.
it very well could be.
I don't think I've ever read an article that includes pictures, speculative drawings, or paintings of ancient organisms that doesn't say that they're speculative, that they can change. It's
And
just like so bizarre to me that you focused
Rebecca,
on this non-issue.
don't you know what us scientists think of artists and people with liberal arts degrees? I mean,
Okay,
these are artists
guys,
that
we can move
basically
on
that
from this
came up.
point.
I mean, they came up with like that one particular one you were talking about. That this somebody interviewed this paleontologist. What was his name? His name was Gingerich, right? They interviewed him, and when he first got the fossil, they didn't have the legs, right? So some artists drew in flippers, right? And Gingerich thought it had flippers, but then they uncovered another one later on, and they found, oh no, it has fairly well developed limbs, right? And he totally backed up, and in his second paper, he mentioned that, right? I mean, this happens all the time. These artist renditions, you don't want to take them too seriously. They have nothing to do with our theory.
Okay, anyway, we can move on from the artist point because it doesn't, this is a small potatoes. It doesn't, this is not my big complaint, okay? So we can actually go on to, other things that you guys
How about
presented.
whale embryos? How about the
let's do it.
How about the hind limb buds that develop on all whale embryo legs, and the fact that some mature whales, orcas and dolphins, end up with atavistic hind limbs, and the genetic evidence and how all those things fit each other and support evolution?
Yeah, by the way, Austin, you misrepresented me when you said this because you said Rebecca said it can't happen. And I don't know where you got that idea because I gave a very different idea in my whale video, which I will present to you again now. So, why do they have these hind limb potentials? We'd say, my hypothesis for that is that they once had hind limbs.
Yeah.
All right.
Nailed it.
And you can put up your picture of the thing with the hind limbs, and there's my evidence. Okay.
There you go.
So that's but
yeah. So whales evolved from an organism with hind limbs.
Whoa, that's something totally different now. I didn't say that at all. No. I'm saying my hypothesis, if we compare two I'm giving a hypothesis. Jeremy looks like he wants to say something. He's got his hand up. Is he frozen?
Oh, I think he froze.
Okay.
Oh, he looks startled. I don't know what he's doing.
What's going on? Is he getting robbed?
He's
What's
waving
happening
goodbye
right
at
now?
you. He's saying,
Okay.
"I'm out of here." He's waving goodbye.
Oh, he's waving goodbye. Well, he's frozen.
No, I don't think
I don't
so.
know what he's doing. All right. But so let's compare two hypotheses. You have one that these hind limbs are, evidence that this came from a land mammal. Okay. And along with that, you have a lot of other things that you've got to make happen, and you don't really have a good mechanism to make them happen. Okay. You have a big problem, and we can discuss that. But my hypothesis is very simple. They had the genes for this. They had the ability to grow these little hind flippers, and they lost it. It's a lot easier to lose than it is to gain all of these big morphological features.
I don't think it's easier to lose or gain. It's all just mutations and variability being filtered out by consecutive generations of selection. So that's why you end up with a modern population that still has TBX4 gene in it, but a broken, deleted version that usually doesn't produce any hind limbs. It produces the buds, the potentials, like you call them, and they get absorbed because apoptosis deactivates them generally, but they can still end up being expressed in this modern broken version, with vestigial version that doesn't even really look much like a limb anymore because of how broken the gene is. So you have to ask yourself,
right? But do you understand?
If the organism is designed, why does it have hind limb genes in it at all? That doesn't make sense. If it makes perfect sense from common ancestry, from mutation and selection. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Why would you put broken genes for a hind limb in an organism you don't want to have a hind limb? Just don't put any hind limb genes in it, period.
Who?
The designer, whoever designed it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now we are getting to an alternative hypothesis.
Right. Theological
so there
argument,
is
which
right.
I don't do.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. But I'm trying to stay away from the theological arguments. I've seen now you are making theological arguments, but I'm trying to bring it back to a scientific argument. Okay.
Yeah, the scientific argument is the consilience of evidence.
But so you have evidence of all those.
The consilience of evidence, the ability of the model to explain the evidence with few arbitrary elements, and the ability of the model to make successful predictions about future data, which are all embodied by the whale evolution data set.
Okay, perfect. I love the criteria that you set out. And I want to ask Mike, which one makes more sense as a hypothesis right now? Which one follows the criteria that Austin laid out? The hypothesis that requires a land mammal to make a bunch of large morphological changes to become a whale, or the hypothesis that a gene got broken that used to produce hind limbs in cetaceans, and it doesn't work now to produce hind limbs in cetaceans, but it's still there, and sometimes it can still do it.
Like Jeremy was saying, that
right?
What's that?
That's what happened. The TBX4 gene mutated, and that's what happened, basically.
Okay, but
so we know that part.
Do you see that I'm trying to evaluate two different hypotheses?
Okay, what are the two hypotheses exactly?
One is that the reason that gene is there is because a land animal, developed over millions of years and became a whale, and had all of these morphological features change. Okay. Or the hypothesis that a gene got broken that used to produce hind limbs, and it doesn't do it most of the time anymore, but it still can sometimes.
Those are both part of our hypothesis.
Yeah,
Which
I don't see how
one
they're mutually
requires more?
exclusive.
Which one requires more? Which one is simpler?
Well, of course it's simpler because you're only talking about one particular tiny little change that occurred in the entire thing.
Right.
Right.
But you're trying to use that change as evidence for an entire progression of very problematic changes to make
Well,
in
no,
an
if
If
organism.
you're not talking about two interlocking pieces of evidence, you're not steel manning the theory, right? That's the point I've been making over and over.
Okay,
again.
what? Let me, because it
Rebecca, we're
it
not trying to
cannot be
leverage.
steel manned, Austin, because you don't have a mechanism to make those giant morphological changes
Yes,
in
we
organisms.
do.
Mutation plus natural selection has not been shown scientifically. It's actually shown the opposite, that it tends to degrade organisms. We have genetic mutations that are causing
wrong.
diseases all of the time. And
Okay.
many of those mutations are neutral or nearly neutral, but it's not forming new and marvelous systems in creatures.
I understand your confusion here. You think that we're taking this TBX4 gene that mutated and quit making the hind limbs, and that we're using that to say that all these other things happened. All of those other things that you listed, every single one of them, they all have their own hypotheses, their own genetic evidence, right? So you're taking this one little, we're not taking this one little detail and saying, oh, that proves it. No, it's all these, like Austin just said, it's all these interconnecting things. So if you take any one of those things on your list, with a few weeks of time on each one of them, can show you the evidence for each one of them, just like I can for the limb. So if we've got all of these stories, as you put it, all of these hypotheses all together, well, then that's why we believe in evolution. I don't believe that the whale evolved from a land mammal just because of that one gene. My God, Rebecca, there's a whole huge pile of papers on all of these things, right? So I think you're misunderstanding us. You think we're trying to prove evolution with one little piece of evidence. Like when you always ask, what is your best evidence for evolution? That's what you expect us to come up with. And it's ridiculous. We don't have a best evidence. There's a billion evidences.
Okay,
God,
well,
I pluralized it. I hate that.
Okay, look, and this is what makes it hard, is because I know in your mind there's this huge mountain of evidence. Okay, I don't know how to take that mountain apart except one rock at a time.
Right.
So
right.
I'm trying to show
time.
you a scientific explanation for why you might see those hind limbs appear occasionally. I'm trying to give you a scientific explanation that doesn't require taking on common ancestry. My explanation is perfectly scientific. Okay. So I'm okay. So what I'm saying is this, like, I'm just trying to get that across, that this is why I don't accept this as evidence for whale common ancestry or whale land mammal to whale evolution. Okay. Because, right, I have a much simpler scientific explanation.
You're right for not accepting it, because if that was the only thing we had, but we have all those other structures, they all have the same evidence, Rebecca.
And I'm working on taking those apart one at a time too.
And how are you? Okay. Well, no. Okay. You didn't take our limb thing apart. You actually, you rubber stamped it. You said that was a good one, right? Good one. Right.
Okay.
That's what happened.
I can give this to you. I can say, it doesn't go against your story. It might be support for your story, right? It could be. On its own, it's hard to see how it is, because I don't need the story to explain the evidence, right? So it's not, there's not much there. So
you're confusing the way creationists argue with the way evolutionary biologists do their work. Evolutionary biologists take the whole of the evidence, right? all those different problems that you come up with, that whole list of things. We don't just find one and say, oh, there's an alternative hypothesis for this, so we're going to reject the entire whale evolution thing, right?
Okay, so you have taken, are you saying for whale, are you saying for whale evolution, all of those big morphological changes, you have a way to explain those by evolutionary mechanisms?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you please give me the explanation for how external testicles go internal?
I'll get back to you in about 2 weeks. Okay. Is that all right?
Yep. Okay. How about let me just pick out one more. Okay.
2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. Okay.
All right. 2 more weeks.
Are you going to pay me for this?
Absolutely not. But okay, then I'll just leave you with that one. Okay. I'll leave you with that one. You can work on that one since I'm not paying you. It's fine. Nobody pays me for what I do either, and I spend a lot of time doing this. So, all right. So, but you know, I am proposing you guys don't have an explanation for those big morphological changes. Okay. So you're saying that you do, but I think it's a problem. I don't think you've actually looked into how difficult of a transition this would be. You're looking at a few pieces of evidence like the involucrum, which can easily be explained by convergent evolution. And by the way, do you know there's more instances of convergent evolution than things that have not convergently evolved? Did you know that?
No.
Test me on it. Test me. There's very few things that have not convergently evolved. It's impossible to make
a lot of convergence evolution, but
what?
There's a lot of convergent evolution. Like one of your examples is the Preston gene, the SLC26A5 Preston gene in bats and in whales. That was one of your things that you were going on about. Okay. That's convergent evolution. And that involves something like, I think at most 26 amino acids. I think it's more like 14 amino acids changed. And there's no reason why that could not happen because that just involves 26 nucleotides changing somewhere, right? So, I mean, that was your big thing, but you implied that the whole Preston protein wasn't present in all mammals, and it is. It's present in all mammals, and you can look at it. And if you look at the difference between bats and their most, I don't know what their most current common ancestor is, you'll find that the other parts of the gene match that more closely. So, I mean, you got to look at the actual genetics. You can't just say, oh, they found this convergent molecular evolution in bats, echolocation, and whales, and call it the end of the day. You got to look at the actual genes, and I did. And it turns out that it's very, very possible for that particular kind of convergent evolution to happen. And so that just wipes out your objection entirely.
Actually, it doesn't, Mike.
Are you Rebecca?
It actually doesn't, Mike. Now, first of all, it's quite difficult to make 26 amino acid changes in a gene. Okay, but let me go on because that's not all. Because I don't think you're actually suggesting that all it takes to make echolocation is that one gene, are you?
No, there'd be much more than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look at the other ways that the bat did it and the way the whale did it, you're going to find all kinds of divergence, not convergence. Yeah. But you're going to find that the whole thing locked in and ended up providing them with echolocation. It's just not implausible from what I looked at, the actual genes. There's nothing implausible about it. What we're looking for is something that's completely implausible. I mean, impossible.
All right. Well, I'm very confident that echolocation, and I have not looked into the details of it, but I'm sure that it is controlled by many genes, right? So you have to have coordinated efforts, coordinated pathways, right, to remake echolocation in these separate organisms. I'd say it's probably a lot harder to make. Oh, that's okay. Than a single bone. Like
Yeah,
They
yeah,
evolve.
yeah. There's a lot of things that have to change. Basically, it's called evolution. It's what we do.
Sorry, my battery died.
Oh, that's okay.
I thought it was plugged into my computer and it died. I drained it all the way down.
We're
to nothing, so
getting
it took
to
forever for it to turn
the
back on.
usually around the time we cut the episode off,
Okay.
but we don't get to talk to somebody like Rebecca very often. So how long do you have, Rebecca? Do you want to stick around for like another half hour or so, or what do you think?
I mean, if this is a good stopping point, we can stop and pick it up another
Yeah.
time. If you want to keep going, I can go another 15 minutes or so.
Can I say something, Rebecca? I want
Sure.
to apologize for you thinking I'm being condescending with you. I can be a little bit tough on you, but you do a lot more research than most people, and so I want to. So I think you do a lot more work, and you are more reasonable than most I've talked to, and I do not want to be condescending. I apologize for that impression. Okay.
Mike said do.
Okay.
Anyways,
And I
yeah.
also want to apologize to Jeremy because I implied that you're not critical thinking, and I think you might be. So I'm sorry
Well-
for saying that. Okay.
Well, thank you. I try. You know,
I wouldn't dare accuse Jeremy of critical thinking, so you're all right. Oh, yeah, I can get that.
And thank you, Mike.
Yeah, if you wanted, I would continue
welcome.
any conversation you want to have. I try to be. I know I get a little juiced up, but like, I mean, if you wanted to talk about the Bible, we could talk about the Bible too, or the flood. That's another topic that I really like to talk about. So, because
Well, I'd like to finish on the whale stuff because I'm probably not going to
I'm talking about
remember
later
this
down the road
in
or
2
something.
days.
yeah, like
So-
well, yeah.
Okay, and I wish you had been here for what we were talking about before, Jeremy. So please do go back and listen
Oh, I
to
will.
it. Okay, thank you.
Hey
But
guys, I'm gonna bail out at this point and let Rebecca go on, even though it's gonna drive me crazy when I listen to it later on. And I'm gonna be yelling at the screen. But I've got to sign off here.
Have a good night.
Thanks for stopping
It'll
by.
be
Mike.
less,
okay,
it'll be trust me, it'll be less confusing if I get the hell out of here.
thanks.
Ian,
Dr.
what's up, man?
Ian.
Oh God, I'm just leaving.
Ah,
Ian.
yes, Dr. Ian. I'm really sad I missed Rebecca. I was obviously getting really heated in the comment section, but you know, it is what it is. And I'm from Melbourne, Rebecca, so we're 14 hours ahead. So to me, I had to like take some work calls. So maybe next time, Rebecca, maybe
Yeah,
next
I
time we
can't
can
hear
get a
him,
chance
yeah.
to chat.
Yeah, sounds good. I
Can
see
you
you
hear
in
me?
my comments section a lot.
Did you get muted
So-
again? Because I can't hear you again. It's happened to me
Uh-oh.
like twice already.
I can hear
Yeah.
you guys all fine.
I
Jeremy,
can hear Ian
you.
fine.
Yeah, it's a glitch. Jeremy, you'll just have to go back and come back in if you want to hear him.
Damn it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Jeremy, is your computer on hash? Is it on cannabis?
Is that
Jezza?
enough?
It's
Yeah,
weird.
no.
'cause StreamYard
One day,
doesn't
Rebecca would
usually
love to have a
cause me
chat with
this
you.
problem.
I'll let it close.
Okay.
Damn, I got to the end of it. Anyway, Rebecca, next time would love to interact with you. And yes, I do get kind of like all indignant in the comments and stuff, but you know, everyone does, so whatever.
Okay. All right. Well,
Sorry about that.
Oh,
did it
yeah,
again.
that's
I
okay.
couldn't
Can
hear
you
Hey,
hear
Jezza.
everybody now?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. Good. Okay, Austin, where did you want to take this? Because I think I have.
Yeah,
one main
I
point.
have.
Mhm.
If you want to make your last point, I think I have a last point that I think is good too. I'm just going to go straight into the theology of it. Let's assume it is a divine creation, and I'm standing there watching the divine creation of whales. Right? What am I seeing? Am I seeing a nervous system floating about in the water, and then when the nervous system vacuoles close around, do they close around water, or do they close around interstitial fluid and spinal fluid? Am I seeing a blood, a circulatory system floating around in the water, or is it like God clicks his fingers and there poof, there's a whale? And most importantly, if one theistic evolution believer or creationist says one thing, they say it's the poof thing, and another creationist says it's the floating nerve system. Which one do I go with? How do I tell which one is going to be more likely to be accurate?
Well, are we talking about science or religion?
Well, if we're talking about divine creation, we're talking about religion.
Okay. So then aren't we having a conversation about like scientific evidence for whale evolution? Because I don't have
but that's why I'm asking. In the scientific model, the whale isn't popping into being. It's taking an ancestral form, and it's changing that ancestral form step by step until it's a modern one. And then if it's a different thing, if we're saying these are different kinds that were created, what did the creation of those different kinds look like?
I don't have access to that.
You're
I think
right.
if I can just steal man,
fair.
if I can steal man, hey Austin, if I can steal man, Rebecca's position, and Rebecca,
go
please
ahead.
correct me if this is not exactly true. I think the issue with creationism is that because they rely on the supernatural, you can never really know. So I know you've described it as a, do we have a nervous system and then something kind of, it might not even be that. I mean, God supposedly could have created a whale kind, and then some evolution happened to kind of produce dolphins and stuff that we have today. But I don't think you can prove it. My point, though, Rebecca, is that because we're talking about science here, and you can't prove creation with science, we got to stop calling it creation science, because that's obviously an oxymoron. There is no science to creation. If you believe in that, at what point you can't explain there's a God part of it, then there is creation and science does not go together. Just call it a miracle, call it whatever you want to call it. I call it magic because it is supernatural. Call it whatever you want, and we just can't prosecute that because there's no explanation. What I would then ask is that no one calls creation science, because it is not science.
I
So
have
think,
no
Austin,
control
you
over
are
what
describing it
people
okay.
call anything. I have no control over what people
Yep.
call anything, but I don't think I use that term. So, I mean, I don't know. I try to keep the science separate from the theology. And I admit, I believe a story, right? I believe in an event that happened that, like you said, I don't know if I'd say, I guess you could say it's a supernatural event. But basically, so yeah, I'm not trying to prove my supernatural event. I'm trying to investigate the evidence for evolution, the scientific evidence for evolution. And I don't think you can investigate the creation event like that. Now, there are aspects of, the Bible that can be investigated, such as, was there really a worldwide flood, right? Like that's something that can be scientifically investigated, right? So there are aspects of the stories that I believe that are, you can look into them scientifically. But right now, we're just investigating the scientific evidence for evolution. But Austin, it seems like you want to turn it to a theological discussion.
No, I just wanted to ask that question because I think it's a powerful question, because it shows the resolution of the two different models. One is really high resolution and gives, detailed answers to specific questions, and the other model it's not as high resolution.
Okay, would you rather have a false model with high resolution? And I'm not saying evolution is false right here. I'm just saying, would you rather have a false explanation that had resolution or a true explanation that doesn't?
So Newtonian physics is an example.
A true explanation with high resolution. Sorry, Austin, I think what Rebecca forgot to say is a true story, the truth with high resolution. So you're comparing two dichotomies and you just flipped it. Why don't you compare the fact? No, well, and I'm saying it. I'm saying that evolution is a fact and it's supported by lots and lots of evidence. You forgot to give that as your third option. You've neglected that. You've kind of flipped it around and kind of said, well, implied, though you didn't say it. You implied evolution was not the truth and it had low evidence, or you had high evidence, but it wasn't the truth. So I mean, you're giving.
Okay,
it's like,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Ken Hovind say is an elephant orange or blue? You're giving two false choices.
Okay, wait, but
he's roboting out a little bit.
Yeah, he's roboting, but and I don't know if he can hear me,
Shit.
but I want to say in this hypothetical, like I'm trying to just give a hypothetical. So
Yeah.
so
I
I'm actually, let's separate it from evolution completely. Let's just say
Yeah,
a
that's what I was
general
trying
thing.
to do. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, Newtonian physics was wrong. It was wrong about things that Einsteinian physics showed us the correct answer to. But Newtonian physics still worked for certain things, like calculating the gravitational attraction between two celestial bodies. It works really well for that. So, is it possible to have a model that's wrong, but it's high resolution and still useful? Yes. If that is the case for evolution, I definitely want to find out about it.
Okay. So,
Also,
but
can
I
I
mean,
just
what I
correct you
mean
with
is
one?
like,
Sorry,
Yeah,
would you
what's
be
up?
okay
Yeah, go ahead,
with
Ian.
okay, yeah, go ahead, Ian.
I think there's a delay, so I apologize for my end because I think when I'm saying something, you guys are talking, then when you're saying go ahead, Austin, it's I think so. I think there's a delay. I might after I say this, I might just jump out and come back in again. So Austin, I was just going to say that yes, a lot of people say Newton's theory of gravity was replaced by Einstein's theory of gravity, but I just wanted to point out that you can actually derive Newton's calculations from Einstein's mathematics as well. So actually, it's what it's probably proper to say is that Einstein's theory actually encompasses Newton's mathematics and makes it better. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah,
not
I
one
think
replaces the
that's
other. One can be
exactly.
derived from the other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what makes it a good answer to the question Rebecca asked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna duck out and come back in again. Hopefully that will solve any buffering issues. All right. So
Yeah,
just
go
give me a
ahead.
second.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, the point I was just trying to get to with that is that you might be right that evolution
I
can
can't
give
hear.
detailed storytelling, like detailed, information about our origins if it's true. But I don't
Damn, now I
believe
can't
it's
hear.
true. So for me, I'd rather have the truth that doesn't have details, right? And what I find when I ask that question, a lot of people say they would rather have a false explanation that gives them details than a true explanation.
I
that
could
doesn't.
see why they might say that because that at least gives you an area to work from. Like phlogiston theory, that was wrong, but it helped us build plum pudding model, and then that helped us build, the atomic soup model, and then that helped us build eventually Dalton, and then modern atomic theory, right? Like, so I think I could see like if I tried to steel man that position, that's what I would think. But no, I think this was a good discussion, and that's a good place to kind of leave it off.
Okay.
If you want to, make any closing statements, tell the audience where they can find you. Thank you for stopping by and bickering with us a little bit. It was fun having a little pushback and trying to litigate things a little bit. And do stop by again. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Well, I actually enjoyed talking to you guys too. It was a little rough at first, but I think we calmed down and were able to have a good discussion, and I'd be happy to do it again. And my channel is Examining Origins, and if anybody wants to come on there, I often do open streams and invite people on. And of course, Austin, you've been invited before, so you're invited and I'd love to talk to you again too. And also Dr. Ian. So yeah, thanks for
Cool.
good conversation, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
nice
you.
meeting you. I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if Ian's going to
Yeah,
make
I
it
can't
back
hear
in
you now.
before we close it out. Oh, sorry.
Every time someone leaves, hold on one second. Like,
I'm all alone, all by myself. Here we go.
every time someone leaves,
Hey, we're
it
back.
just mutes me. Well, that was fun.
Well, yeah, no, I was that was interesting. So I think we're gonna close it out there. Jeremy, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah.
Everybody make sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on the replay, leave some comments. So my stuff gets boosted in the algorithm. And thanks everybody. And I hope you learned something and you had a good time. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah. Have a good night, man.
Peace out, everybody.